Hello everyone! This short series of videos is about treatment for vitiligo. This specific video is about phototherapy. The essence of phototherapy is to irradiate affected area with UV light in order to stimulate repigmentation. So first, you might be thinking, how does phototherapy stimulate repigmentation? The answer is complex and does not seem to be entirely understood, but there seem to be two reasons. First, by stimulating melanocytes stem proliferation, melanocytes migrate from the hair bulge to epidermis, the outermost layer of the skin. This mechanism is thought to occur when a patient is taking immunomodulating medications, but also when undergoing phototherapy. We spoke about it in more details in the previous video. The link is in the description. Second way in which phototherapy stimulates repigmentation is by suppressing immune system. Please recall that although vitiligo seems to have complex causes, there is a strong evidence that it is an autoimmune condition. So phototherapy reduces the ability of the body to destroy its own melanocytes. Again, I'm not going to go into details. If you want to find out more, this article might be a starting point for your research. It is freely available and I'll put the link to it in the description. Before we move on to different types of radiation used for treatment of vitiligo, I will briefly sketch the concept of radiation. Electromagnetic radiation travels in a manner of waves. Wavelength of a particular radiation is the distance between successive crests of a wave. So let's give a specific example. UV radiation is further subdivided into UVC, UVB, and UVA. Radiation that has wavelength between 100 and 280 nanometers is called UVC. 1 nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter, so basically 100 nanometers is a very small distance. UVB has wavelength between 280 and 315 nanometers, and UVA between 315 and 400 nanometers. Some of the UVB and UVA is naturally present in the sun rays, and it is sun radiation that was originally used for treatment of vitiligo. Patients also had to take some plant extracts. The substance responsible for photosensitization was later identified as solaren. So, a bit of history of phototherapy. The use of solarans as repigmenting agents for vitiligo was well known in both ancient India and Egypt. These are the two plants commonly used to make the medication. The patients would take the medication and then take sunbaths. Please notice that the side effects of the plant extracts were very severe. They included vomiting, diarrhea, coma, abdominal pain, etc. So anyway, this method of treating vitiligo was rediscovered in 1947 by Mr. Mofti. Mofti observed repigmentation of vitiligulous lesions after the use of powdered seeds from the plants I mentioned before, prescribed by native herbalists in Egypt. Mofti contributed to the identification and extraction of the specific compound that causes photosensitization needed for vitiligo treatment, which is called in short 8-MOP, and this is chemical structure. Finding of Mofti started a wave of research. We read, two young American dermatologists were intrigued by the potency of 8-MOP. They determined UVA radiation was the most efficacious for activating 8-MOP, and the development of artificial sources of UVA enabled for more widespread vitiligo treatment. Okay, so let's jump to current times. At present, there are several types of phototherapies available: UVA and solaren, abbreviated as PUVA, as we said, the oldest technique, then UVB, and later narrowband UVB started to be used. NB-UVB is called narrowband because the range of wavelengths is narrowed to only 311 and 312 nanometers. According to this article, the efficacy of these techniques follows the chronology they were introduced for treating dermatoses, with PUVA being the least efficacious and narrowband UVB the most. Therefore, the use of PUVA has decreased, but this is not the only reason. I'm sure you remember that crude plant extracts containing solaren had rather severe side effects. Now, some milder side effects might still occur after taking pure solaren. When solaren is applied as gel, the side effects are, for instance, edema, other skin redness, scaling, and itching. If ingested, a relatively common side effect is nausea. And you might ask, does Solarin improve the efficacy of UVB? Why aren't people treated with PUVB and P-narrowband UVB? Well, Solarin is activated the most by UVA and only slightly activated by UVB. So even though some publications tested PUVB and P-narrowband UVB, the difference is not big, or the publications themselves are not great, like this one has only 9 participants, too little to reach firm conclusions. This article claims that both modalities of treatment, narrowband UVB and P-narrowband UVB, bring similar results, but P-narrowband UVB gives more side effects. Overall, it doesn't seem to be worth it. Lastly, you might wonder, what does it mean that Solarin is activated by UVA? On exposure to UVA, Solarins become chemically activated and covalently binds to DNA base pairs, forming crosslinks. So here is 3D DNA model, and here are the bases that are flat, and we can see that Solarin, which is also flat, can easily approach the bases and bind to them. So anyway, the DNA crosslinks have immunosuppressive effects, among others. So in short, Solarin helps to introduce controlled amount of damage, resulting in, for instance, immunosuppression. So what happens when UVA or UVB alone are being used? UVA or UVB also introduced DNA damage, each by different mechanism, as both affect skin in a different way. UVA damages DNA indirectly by generating oxidative species, whereas UVB is absorbed directly by DNA, leading to photoproducts. Mutations and cancer can result from many of these modifications to DNA. Now, as I said, the aim of phototherapy is to introduce controlled degree of damage to suppress certain processes and kickstart some others. But does phototherapy increase the risk of cancer? In this article from 2004, we read, none of the published studies showed an increase in skin cancer risk with UVB phototherapy, except for one PUVA cohort analysis on genital cancer. And in fact, if we look at phototherapy standards and protocols, and by the way, it's BAD website, that stands for British Association of Dermatologists. So anyway, in this protocol, we read that men need to wear protection on their private areas during both UVA and UVB sessions. After flicking through several articles on the topic of cancer risk and vitiligo, I found this publication from 2020 Danish nationwide study. I will focus on this publication because, as you will shortly see, it seems to be well designed and it seems to have thorough and balanced literature review in the introduction section. So first, the article points out that the literature is biased and conflicting in regard to vitiligo patients' risk of cutaneous malignant melanoma and keratinocyte cancer. I am so happy that someone finally points that out because I just thought I was losing my mind doing this review. So the Danish publication points out that there are 2 nationwide studies from Asia. One found an increased risk of cancer in vitiligo patients, the other did not. Then there are 3 studies in white populations. First 2 found a decreased risk of cancer, and the third concluded the risk is not elevated. And lastly, the Danish study itself also concluded the risk is not elevated. So why the results are conflicting? It might be due to, quote, challenges in finding appropriate control populations and to surveillance bias. Surveillance bias is a type of information bias which occurs when one group of subjects is followed up more closely than others. So in our example, vitiligo patients would be more closely followed up than the control groups. Very importantly, this publication seemed to address this problem. It has 2 control groups. First, the normal control group, and the second control group are patients with lichen planus. Lichen planus is also a chronic skin condition and too can be treated with phototherapy. The publication, as I said, did not find elevated levels of cancer or melanoma in vitiligo patients compared to either of the control groups, and hence the publication concluded phototherapy does not seem to increase the risk of melanoma or cancer in vitiligo patients. Now, there are two important things to mention. First, the study has limitations. The authors could not adjust for the subject's skin type, sun exposure, etc. Such data was not available. Moreover, their findings may not be generalizable because genetics and baseline ultraviolet exposure vary in other populations. So that closes off the topic of cancer and vitiligo and the three basic types of phototherapy. But there exists fourth, the newest phototherapy mode that I would like to briefly mention now. It's still UVB, but now only a single wavelength is being used, 308 nanometers. 308 nanometer radiation can be delivered by a lamp or laser. But let's look first at this publication. It investigates the use of 308 nanometer laser. The hope was that 308 nanometer laser is capable of reducing treatment time. Laser delivers high energy fluences to the target tissue in less time, and the different light-tissue interaction may increase efficacy of treatment. This was the hypothesis. This is the table with data, and this is the conclusion. A degree of repigmentation in a period of 2 to 4 weeks was much higher than that achieved with any other present vitiligo therapy. However, please notice that the number of patients in the study is rather small, therefore more research is needed. Now, this study compares the 308 nanometer laser versus lamp. 308 nanometer lamp induces more edema, that is skin redness, suggesting photobiological differences between the two devices. So what is the difference between the lamp and the laser? With the laser, the beam is coherent, whereas the lamp has non-coherent beam. Another difference is that laser has so-called collimated beam, whereas that is not the case with the lamp. So these are some basic differences in case you wondered. Having said that, both devices showed similar efficacy in treating vitiligo. The study also points out that the lamp is cheaper, and we can also notice that the laser is not really practical for treating larger areas because of the small diameter, only 2.5 centimeters. Now, there are two last things I would like to mention. First, home phototherapy is possible. 308 nanometer lasers are available for purchase, and other devices too, but I beg you, don't buy anything without consultation with a specialist. This is an open access article about home phototherapy. I will post the link to it in the description. It is fairly new, but it points out there are still some problems with prescribing home phototherapy. The publication references another, much older publication that says, for instance, only about 35% of dermatologists received training on home phototherapy. This publication analyzes data that are probably more than 15 years old, and I hope the situation since has improved. This publication is also an open access, and I will put a link to it in the description. Lastly, I would like to mention the benefits of introducing immunomodulating agents during or after phototherapy. This study examines the combination of laser with tacrolimus ointment, which is an immunosuppressing agent. The conclusion is that the therapy seems to be efficacious and with a good safety profile. Tacrolimus ointment can be also used after the phototherapy to stabilize the repigmentation. So this study is a long-term follow-up of patients treated with narrowband UVB. The publication estimates that sadly, the probability of relapse after successful repigmentation in vitiligo patients is estimated to be 40% within the first year. This publication investigates maintenance therapy. They found out that twice-weekly application of 0.1% tacrolimus ointment is effective in preventing depigmentation. Please notice that the success rate of maintenance therapy is independent of the modality of the initial treatment. Thus, clinicians may choose to use this maintenance therapy regardless of whether topical tacrolimus, topical steroids, or phototherapy was used for initial treatment. Something to bear in mind. That's all I have for you today. I hope it was helpful. Thank you for watching. Bye!